Welcome to the Dueling Den. Today we have...
Amani Jones.
And what did you play?
I was playing Pendulum. So real quick, just tell a quick story. I heard that the boys over in Malone, they were trying to tell me that Thunder was the best deck. And I was just like, here's why you're wrong, this card right here. Electromite. Unbeatable. Best Link monster ever made. And they were just trying to tell me, like, nah, man, like, Colossus is just boss monster. Like, yeah, Colossus is a fusion monster. Fusions suck. Link monsters, best boy.
He hustles.
Yeah, he hustles. I like him. So we went to their sneak peek on Sunday. I got the mat, which is great. We wound up playing, love that mat. Wound up playing 2 tournaments back to back. First one was a 5 round, second one was 4 rounds, so 9 rounds all together. Went undefeated, didn't lose any of my matches. I dropped a couple games just because of stupid mistakes, but like every match just came through. It's a fun time. I did it with Pendulum Magicians. So the reason I went with Pendulum Magicians for this was, part of it was because it's really like the only deck that I'm super comfortable with that I own right now. Most other decks I'm either still iffy on or I just don't have all the cards for. And I didn't play the Endymion version because I don't have the Endymion cards, but also I have my own thoughts on the Endymion deck. I think that the Endymion cards raise the power of the Pendulum deck. Like the boards you make are a lot more insane, but they can also make your bad hands worse, because in most instances you're investing much heavier into the spell counter stuff, which requires you to play, I feel like, more bricks, or you're only playing a very light count, which at that point it's like, well, why are you're designing your deck to be much more susceptible to hand traps, and the whole reason you play Pendulum this format is because it doesn't lose as hard to things like hand traps or Colossus or anything like that. So I went with pure Pendulum, and yeah, things happened. I won. I keep telling, like, I don't think I didn't go in there trying to win. I just think everyone else just really wanted to lose. I don't know.
Thanks.
It's fine. I didn't go up against you, so what do you care? Also, Pendulum just randomly has really good matchups like across the board this format. Like it's the matchup against Thunder is actually just free because we don't lose to Colossus, and we can usually play through their boards. Against Salamangreat, it's a little more 50-50. Striker, it's more in our favor because we have ways to like play around things like their Widow Anchors and all that. Like my only real hard matchup is Salamangreat, and I didn't go up against Salamangreat, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because everyone was on Thunder and Endymion, and I was just like, those decks suck. I don't know what's wrong with you people. But, all right, so yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
All right, so start things up. Starting with the Magician part of the deck, we'll play 3 copies of Tour Guide from the Underworld. Use this to summon Phoenix Rhino Warrior, and then overlay for Dante, detach, and then you kind of just wombo. Sometimes you can make like a Virgil or something. It's fine. But no, in all seriousness, Harmonizing, she's a tour guide. Yeah, she just summons a monster from the deck. You use this usually for link plays. You can use her for Xyz plays, synchro, all of it. Objectively, the best card in the deck. Most of your play is revolved around getting her either into your hand or into the extra deck. So you can add her back to your hand with either Electromite or Oath Dragon. And then we got 3 copies of Wisdom Eye. Actually, probably the best card in the deck. He's just 3 more copies of any Magician scale that you want. If you open 2 of this, then you're probably going to win. If you open 2 of this and you don't win, then you just suck. I don't know what to tell you.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. If you open 2 of this, you should win. I don't care what the rest of your hand is. 2 Oath Dragon. Oath Dragon's actually a really good card. There's a part of me that wants to run 3. And the main reason that he's essentially just Electromite on a diet, just being able to recycle back your Magicians. It's really strong. It lets you, if there's a card other than Harmonizing that you want to be able to add back off Electromite, then you can use Oath Dragon just to like grab back Harmonizing later. Like there were times when I would use Wisdom Eye to like in scale. Like I would use 1 Wisdom Eye to blow itself up to set the Oath Dragon, and then I would have Oath Dragon grab back Wisdom Eye, scale Wisdom Eye, blow itself up to get another scale, and then just have Oath Dragon grab back I would have Electromite grab back Wisdom Eye and then have Oath Dragon grab back Harmonizing or something. It's just gives you so much free play. Yeah, so much value. Also, just being able to recycle your other scales, because most of your other scales have just so much utility to them, and just being able to get them back so you can keep using them again and again. It's just power. And then we got 2 copies of Black Fang Magician, as well as 1 copy of Purple Poison. Let me fix that real quick. So the 2 Black Fang, I really like this. He's another high scale, and being able to cut your opponent's monster's attack in half is a real great way to help push for OTKs, as well as just being a free extender to bring back magicians after you've detached them for Xyz materials and all that. Purple Poison, I know some people might look at only one thing. Why are you doing this to yourself? So the idea with only 1 Purple Poison is just that her destruction effect is definitely very powerful, but but usually what you're trying to do is that going first, you're just trying to wombo and just make this massive board, and she doesn't really help you with that. More often than not, I'm using her just to summon, just have another level 4 to summon off of Harmonizing to make an Xyz play or a level 8 Synchro play. Her pop effect does come up every now and then. Her ability to power up one of your spellcasters is great and all. And sometimes you're going into game 2 and your opponent signs in Vanity's Fiend and they just drop a Vanity's Fiend on you, but you open your 1 of Purple Poison. You just win.
It actually won you one game, didn't it?
Yeah, that actually happened. I literally, my opponent, round 1 of the first round, my opponent, game 2, he signed in Vanity's Fiend. He tribute summons Vanity's Fiend. And I look at my hand. I'm just like, I don't know how to deal with Vanity's Fiend. I look at my hand. I was like, oh, I opened Purple Poison. So I drew for turn, normal Purple Poison, swung to his crash into Vanity's Fiend, popped it. I looked at the rest of my hand. I was just like, oh, I can just kill him now. I can just make obviously I can't kill him because I just use my battle phase, but I can just make it so that on my next turn I can kill him. So I just went off and made a massive board. So I'm talking about. My opponents just didn't want to win.
Was it Savage Control?
Huh?
Was it Savage Control?
No, that was a different game. That's a totally different game. Just get to that later. Listen. And then to round off the Magician, 1 Donkey Magician and 1 Dragon Pit. So mostly these are just level 7s that you can summon off Harmonizing for your rank 7 play for Absolute Dragon. Zonky does have the extra utility of being able to negate the effects of light monsters, which did actually come up a couple times. For example, I was playing against Dino Thunder in the last round of the first tournament, and what wound up happening was he went first. He made a board of Wee Witch Apprentice, Colossus, and UCT. And so I had Zonky Magician in my hand, so I just drew. I used Wisdom Eye to blow itself up to place a scale, and then I had Chronograph and Zonky special summon themselves, and since I already had a monster on board to make Electromite, I was able to have Zonky just negate the UCT and just combo off into Electromite and do all my plays, which was just insane. We take those. Yeah. Also, I do think it is correct to play 2 different level 7s because you get a low scale and a high scale. There are times when I would consider just cutting this for a second Zonky, but the problem with that is that you usually with the playing 2 Zonky means that you have the chance of you're increasing a chance of seeing another low scale, which isn't really something you need. You usually want the variety of having a low and a high scale. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So that's it for the Magicians. Fun times. To go into your Electromite Turbo cards, we have the 3 Chronograph with the 1 Time Gazer. I don't have to explain this, I don't think. No. Yeah. 3 Dark Worm and 2 Donut. Actually, just the best engine probably in the deck. Being able to, a lot of your plays just involve sending, your best starting place to have a way to send this to grave, so you can just special summon it, get the gate 0. It's especially powerful with Pendulum Call, because with Pendulum Call you can't blow up any of your Magicians for the rest of the turn off Electromite. So being able to get to the gate 0 set, you can blow it up off of me for the Electromite and just keep getting your pluses is usually the best thing to do. Mm-hmm. I've considered cutting this down to 1. I've actually tried it at 1, but the problem is that we also run 3 Desires, and you usually usually want at least 1 in your deck to be able to search off of the Dark Worm. Gotcha. Yep. Oh, and also it being a scale 0s, just pretty nice. We take those. And then we play the Mythical Beast engine. It sucks when this gets ashed, but I didn't get ashed all day. It's weird. Again, my opponents didn't want to win.
Or you were playing Salad Boys.
And semantics. Hey. Semantics. Yeah, it was great. Everyone was on Demion and Thunder. Again, they didn't want to win. But yeah, so Cerberus just being another turbo card to get to Jackal King, and then Jackal King being summoned. It's great. Jackal King also has the extra utility of being a searchable negate that you can put out with the rest of your board. Most of your best boards usually involve having Like, you really want to, like, having Jackal King just so you have, like, an extra disrupt on top of all the standard stuff is actually just power. Mm-hmm. And having, like, another spell in your hand that you didn't need to use is usually pretty good. Like, for example, if, like, you do your full combo and then at the end you just have, like, a Desire, you just go, Desires, draw 2 more cards. Cool, so I have a follow-up play for next turn, and I have Negate. It's also just really good against Striker because then you can, because they're forced to use spells to try and out your board. So it's, like, most decks need to, like, play spells at some point to put counters on this to keep going. Usually you just let one of their spells resolve and then you kind of just go from there.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's it for... Oh, no, I lied. 2 Curtain Raiser. I only played 2 because unlike the other turbo cards, which have at least some utility outside of just being a turbo card, Curtain Raiser doesn't really have it. Like, Curtain Raiser's only, like, real utility is that it's a level 4 that which opens you up for Xyz plays. Like, Darkworm and Gate 0, again, have the utility of just being able to, like, constantly gain, like, net you advantage over time. Even Chronograph has the utility of, like, if one of your cards dies, it can just put itself on board to, like, help you, as well as just set up for other plays. Mythical Beast, we've already explained that. Curtain Raiser just doesn't really have that utility, and also, I found that opening multiples of it can be kind of awkward, because, again, it just doesn't do you anything outside of making Electromite, so yeah. Mm-hmm. Although it can randomly out Nap Beast, which never came up, but, you know. And then, probably my favorite card in the deck, 3 Misvalue Apex Avion. If you're playing the Endymion version, then you should probably just cut this for the Master Endymion boss, whatever his name is, because that is just objectively better and they do the same thing. But if you're playing the more pure version, I do highly recommend you play this card. I've seen some versions cut it, and I think those versions are wrong. Having an extra negate that you can kind of just keep putting on the board is really powerful. There's actually a particular combo where if you open this with, like, Chronograph and, like, open this Chronograph plus any way to, like a Pendulum monster that just blows itself up, like Cerberus or Wisdomite or something, then you just, then you get this on the board next to Chronograph plus, like, another Pendulum monster. And so you'll just have, like, blanket protection from hand traps for your Electromite, so you can just do your plays uninterrupted. And then if they try to hand trap, you just bounce this back to your hand, and then you just Pendulum summon out later.
Okay.
You take those.
The chicken does things.
The chicken is God. And then the one Amorphous Goliath. We do play a Guard Dragon package. This is the only card I really play that utilizes the package. And I'll explain that a bit more later. Okay. But yeah, just Domain is fair. Monster Floodgates, we take those. For spells, I do 3 Pendulum Call. This plus Darkworm is an FTK, I just don't know how. Like, actually, this plus Darkworm is probably just gonna be game.
Yeah.
Even if this gets Ash, it's like, okay, well, I still was able to discard Darkworm, just get it back, search a card, so now I have 6 cards versus your 4.
Right.
It's great. 3 Desires. Minor in Spanish, so I don't know what it does. I think banishes 10, lets me draw 2. I guess that's okay. Most like the important cards you play are like 3 of, so you usually don't have to really worry about banishing them. There's never been a time when I've Desires and banished, like, all 3 copies of, like, my Harmonic Magician, for instance. And usually, depending on how good the rest of your hand is, you don't even need to use your Desires. Like, your Desires is probably, like, at that point, you're just using Desires to try and get into, like, a win more card, like Apex or Jackal King, so, like, it doesn't really matter.
Gotcha.
And then 2 Dragon Shrine and 1 Fool's Barrel. I did that backwards, but it's fine. These are just there to send Darkworm. Fun fact, something that randomly came up, I used Foolish to send, I think, a Zonky Magician. And then I revived the Zonky Magician with a Black Fang to just swing for game. It was pretty funny.
I was just gonna ask that. I'm like, did you ever use Foolish Burial?
That was just a strength. Again, my opponents didn't want to win.
They'll see this.
We're going to Nats. It's fine now. Right. So, extra deck, 1 Electromite. Nah, just... Like, if Konami really wants to kill the deck, just ban this card. I'm serious. Like, you only need 1. He hustles. I like him. It sucks if he gets ogred or veilered or impermanence, but like that's just the risk you run. Even like when he was at 3, it sucked when that happened. Mm-hmm. Usually though, when you had 3, like you were able to like compensate for it because you just make a second one and kind of just do the same thing, which is why ogering it was the best thing to do. 1 just makes it a lot more susceptible to hand traps, but the rest of your deck is just so good at powering through the hand traps that like in a lot of instances, like you can like your best hands can usually play through a hand trap. Your like and like your decent hands can maybe play through a hand trap depending on like what they are, and then like your really bad hands, if your worst hands can't play through a hand trap, you're probably gonna lose anyway. That's just a fact. One guard dragon LP. We use this mostly to route Goliath, and then this also combos nicely with the Ib, the World Child's Priestess. So the idea with a lot of decks that are running the Amorphic engine don't run her anymore, and I think that's wrong. So the idea with running her is that currently the only like major way you can out the Goliath lock is with Dino Rest or Pankratops. Like the problem with Sloth is like, yes, you can, if you open it, you can just Pendulum summon it out. But the problem is that it can just be swung over with like Pankratops or something, or just any big monster. Amorphage Goliath, because it has a bigger body, it's much harder to just swing over. And so the only real way to out it is with a Pankratops. But at that point, but that's why you have Ib. So Ib just offers it. Usually, your board will look something like Electromite. So Electromite, Ib, LB, and then you'll have the Goliath like right here, and then you'll have like where is it? You'll have like Vortex Dragon like right next to Ib. In the case of those hands, like this is like objectively one of the best boards you can make with this deck. And so what you're having is like you have the negate, you have the floodgate, but then you also have protection for both of them. So it just protects against things like Pankratops and all that. And because she's linked, she can't be destroyed by battle or card effects anyway, so your opponent can't just like go Pankratops, swing over it, and then pop. Like, yeah. Value.
And if anything leaves the field, you have Electromite to just get a draw.
Exactly. Now you understand. Yeah. And then for other links, when we witch, this should be a B-Cop from the Underworld. There was never a time when... usually what you're doing with Wee Witch is that you can just use her to make... Like, she's just like 2 more down arrows if you, like, need to keep going after your Electromite dies. But there was never an instance where, like, having her over B-Cop was, like, anything major. I would probably rather B-Cop because it's much more generic to summon. Yeah. And then, 1 Mellotron. Don't really need to explain this. 1 Boral Sword because we like to win. Like, because Konami just likes giving us free win buttons. It's fine.
FTK is a thing.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Or sometimes you mess up or sometimes you forgot you sided out your Goliath, so you just have to like Boral Sword pass the time. 1 Abyss Dweller for the Xyz. 1 Abyss Dweller. It's a great card against like graveyard heavy decks. It hard counters the. This is a hard counter to like the Orcus decks because they can't activate any of their engrave effects. It's also really good against Salamangreat. 1 Karagorgan. This is mostly there for the Sky Striker matchup. It's also just randomly another good Xyz monster to put next to your Goliath because it can draw away things like Widow Anchors or Pankratops, Rage, all that jazz. 1 Tornado Dragon because we hate back row decks. 1 Time Star Magician. This was something new I was trying just for today. Well, not today, the other day. It was fine. It didn't, like, this probably should have been a Naruto. This was originally Naruto. I decided to try this out, and Naruto just seemed like the best card at the time to cut. Again, it was fine.
Yeah. So maybe for, like, budget players, they can just do this. Or...
Yeah, well, if you're a budget player, you could probably afford Naruto. Because it's been reprinted a couple times. But the thing about my main idea with Time Stars, it just helps you, like, push for games easier. It helps you get to, like, your big, like, combo pieces, but as well as offering protection for your magicians. But the problem with that is that you're very rarely finishing on board with just magicians. So at that point, you're usually not even making this. You're making one of these instead, or you're making, like, a synchro. And at that point, it's like, well, what was the point if you're making the Time Star?
Right.
Yeah. And then for Elastic Xyz, we did the 1 Absolute Dragon. We mostly do this so you can Xyz and then link it off so you can make the 1 Vortex Dragon. I know I said that fusions suck. Vortex is the exception. He's a good boy. And for Synchros, we do the 1 Meteor Burst Dragon. I still really like this card, just being able to summon... usually what you're doing with this card is you're summoning like a Gate 0 or one of your level 7 Pendulums out of the scale. So then you can just overlay this for Absolute Dragon, and then you can just do your normal combos.
Gotcha.
One Cyframe Lord Omega. I made this probably twice. You're usually using it in situations where after you've gone second, like in a lot of the cases I was using it, it was when I was like going second, or I just didn't have a way to like OTK, so I would just like make this to
control the game state.
Yeah, so like being able to like recycle back a resource after it's been banished off harmonizing, or just being able to like hit a card out of my opponent's hand so they have less resources to work with. Great card, love it. And then one Savage Dragon. He's a good boy. Savage Dragon is a good go-to to make when you're not really sure what your opponent's playing. Like if you don't know what your opponent's playing, you just make a Dweller, but then you find out that they're playing like Sky Striker, you probably just lost. Mm-hmm. But having just that extra negate there in case that happens. Sometimes you mess up, your best play is to Borrowsword pass, and then you just gotta like your opponent like cracks your board because your board was bad, and so you just Borrowload Savage Control. You just make Wee Witch with Savage Dragon, and you have a 5,000 attack Savage Dragon. It's fine. With 4 negates, I'm just saying. Like, it worked. I won that game. It's fine. Yeah, cool. So that's it for the extra deck. In the side deck, we got the best field center. Your boy Rowlet.
Anything special about Rowlet here?
Oh, yeah, no, you guys don't understand. This Rowlet, you see these eyes? No, you gotta zoom in on the eyes right now. These eyes? Eyes of a fucking psychopath. Eyes of a sociopath, alright? I was in a match one time, and I went on normal tour guide, special psychic wielder. Opponent calls over a judge. Rowlet shot the judge. Fucking shot a guy. I don't know. I don't know.
Shot the judge.
Shot a judge! Bang! Anyway, for the side deck, we'll start off with the Spice. So we got the Gamma package. So the reason why I decided to play the Gamma package over like Veilers or Impermanence is just it does the same thing as Stills. For siding, I wanted cards that were I wanted a card that was very flexible, going both first and second, like in a game 2 or 3 situation, as well as just a card that if I don't know what my opponent's playing, because some players what they'll do is if I just make like this massive board and they're not really sure how to break it, then they'll just immediately scoop, and then they'll just go to game 2. And so just bringing in Gamma when I'm not really sure what my opponent's playing is just a safe option. And again, it's very flexible going both first and second. Going second, you can just stop like a massive play. Like I wound up winning the second tournament, my round 4 match because he bricked. So his best play was to just special summon one of the baby Chaos Dragons, the normal Sky Blaster. I Gammaed the Sky Blaster, and he was just like, yeah, you got it. But yeah, and then going first, it's really good. Because usually, like, post-side, your opponents bring in hand traps like Ash's stuff if they're not maining them. Mm-hmm. And so, like, if you just go call, discard a card and they try to Ash you, you can just Gamma them. And then what'll happen is, like, you can then make Omega, rep another card in their hand, so they have 3 cards versus your, like, however many you have at that point. And that's just such free value.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. 3 Sphere Mode. This was mostly just for the combo heavy decks, such as the Danger Thunder decks. Sphere Mode, I'm kind of like... Sphere Mode's in a really awkward place because with the Danger Thunder decks, a lot of them are like... They can just go like Levianeer, Diablo, they can just loot them to knock cards out of your hand, which kind of puts you in the same situation that we were in back when the Gumbler combos were very popular, where it's like siding all of these cards that are really good going second to like break the board. They're suddenly a lot more weaker because if your opponent can just hit them out of your hand, then what's sort of the point? Mm-hmm. That being said, I still think it's just a very good card to go against those decks, as well as just combo decks in general. It's also really good against, like, randomly really good against, like, the Pendulum-based decks, and also kind of good against Salamangreat, because there are a lot of times when their best boards are just, they'll have, like, a Sunlight Wolf and, like, the Mirage Stallion and, like, one other monster, because they revive, like, Jaguar or something that they revive.
Or they go Jaguar into,
yeah, exactly.
Phalanx.
So, usually, having this Sphere Mode so you can break the board, and that'll just turn off, like, most of their back row in a lot of instances. It's kind of like when you Kaiju the Sky Striker player. Yeah. And then Double Danko. Actually, best girl. Love this card. Just being able to go normal summon. You can't play. It's fine. And again, like, so the thing about Danko is that, again, usually your deck's really good at pushing through hand traps, but it struggles with pushing through back row. So if you can just go normal Danko and just shut off all their back row, that makes your Salamangreat matchup like 1,000,000 times easier.
I was actually really techy in one game, and I used Beat Cop to target my Deco. So when we talk about Valor card
Yeah.
effects, my opponent's like, oh,
okay, cool.
Okay.
Weird. Yeah. Deco's a good girl. I like her. I should probably be playing 3, but when you're me and you only play 2 of a card, you see it all the time, so it's fine. Like, yeah. Oh, except, every game that I side her in. But I almost never I think I sided her in like once, and so it didn't matter. That's fine. And then 3 Twin Twister and 3 Red Reboot because I just hate back row decks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Final thoughts. Yeah. Water is wet. Windmills don't cause cancer. Electromite is in fact unbeatable if you're playing if you want to play Thunder, then just build Salamangreat as a much easier matchup against this deck, or just build this deck. It's much cheaper than Thunder. I'm just saying. But yeah, the deck again, it's a really good deck, I think.
If you want to win 1 or even possibly 2 play match,
Yeah.
he's your boy.
He hustles. I like him. But yeah, the deck served me well. I've been playing this deck for a few months. It's kind of at that point where what works, what doesn't work, doesn't work. I might experiment with the Endymion stuff in the future, but I think I've already made my thoughts on the Endymion cards clear.
Yeah.
They're good, but I don't think they're I don't think you're required to play them if you want to play Pendulum. But if you just want to play like a Pendulum deck on a budget, then they're good to go with. But again, this deck honestly altogether isn't really that expensive. The extra deck might be a bit pricier just because things like Savage Dragon and Boral Sword, but yeah, just I don't know, play Boral Load instead. Yeah,
Alrighty.
that's really it.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Take care.